It's late.
I'm getting too
You
into it.
are live. How's everyone doing? Greetings from the UK. I like it, UK. How's it going? Red Cabin's also RCAB here. I love that name.
RCAB.
That's beautiful. How's everyone doing? This is fun. I actually had I have a fun video coming up next week that I just shot. I think it's coming up next week or the week after. I'm not sure, but it's basically reading, because I haven't done a Q&A video for so long. I got to sift through and I found a lot of like grumpy comments of like angry or confused comments. So I'm like, I did a whole video of like mean comments. It's going to be fun. I was actually laughing pretty hard doing it. Do you get any feedback response from Zoom about your Zoom reviews? That's funny, because one of the questions was somebody railing on me for how I use the Zoom H1. And my response was, is that you, Zoom? I know I have not received anything. I don't expect to. Just to like, and like, I'm not in any way trashing Zoom and their practices or anything like that. This was a review. It's a very professional kind of setup where this is how I think about your product. If you guys want to send me another one, that's fine. And from what I've seen with most companies, they just take it and move on. I don't think there's going to be any bad blood there. They might think twice the next time they're going to send me a product, which is fine. And that's like, whatever. I don't expect anything from companies. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I've put out bad reviews before. I've hit companies pretty hard. And I've gotten a full range of emotions from companies, but usually the big corporations don't care. They're just like, okay, move on. So we'll see how that does. Poseidon, how's she going? I'm doing great. I spent a shit ton of money and feeling kind of anxious. Beresford, greetings, also from the UK. Well, what's up? I'm sure they'll have a care package for you. If there's something flaming on my doorstep, don't step on it. A big sign that says from Zoom. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. This is what I spent money on, though, guys, in case you're wondering. I finally did it, and I bought the new camera. This is the new Sony A7C II. I actually got it used, and when I say used, I mean quote unquote used. It's one of the show models that they have. I got it like $500 off, so pretty psyched about that. No, I'm not going to be doing any videos with this yet. I actually got it early so I can learn it before NAB, because this thing is way different from a Canon T7i. So also the full frame sensor is a lot different from an APS-C sensor. So I'm also learning, how to utilize, like, I've got the 20 millimeter f1.8, which means it's going to be really bokeh in the background. It's going to be really blurry and stuff. And it's making sure I set all that up right. So, but yeah, this is what's causing me all the anxiety, because all the money I just spent. Oy, that's brutal. Big Tasty's in the house. Long time no see. How's everyone? I'll wait 10 years until 4K becomes a new 1080 and I can get a 4K 144 hertz monitor for $150. You can almost get that. You can almost get a decent 4K monitor for pretty cheap. By the way, Dylan, I named this 4K versus 1080p. Which do you prefer? We'll talk about that in a second. Poseidon. Good question. I love this one. Dylan, you're going to be in on this.
All right.
What is the best way for someone to develop an ear? Basically, figure out how to EQ audio to sound great. Now, before Dylan steps in, and Dylan's going to have the most on this, the way I've been developing my ear is by using EQ, by like getting something in and like playing with the EQ. Using multiple microphones also helps you narrow down certain frequencies. And I'm talking about like very different sounding microphones, like the difference between an NT1 and an SM7B. Like, you put those side by side, you can hear the differences in them, and you can play with that EQ and kind of figure out what those differences are. And that has helped develop my ear to the point that it's at now. However, I'm going to give the floor to Dylan, because his ear is like a billion times better than mine. So Dylan, why don't you take the floor here?
I don't know about billion. That's kind of wild. That's a wild accusation. But so like, Yeah, I got a decent ear. Not the best guy around for mixing and stuff, but I can get a good mix that makes people happy. And I would say for me, ear training, and I mean that goes for music as well. I think even people that obviously there are people that are pitch perfect that do ear training, for individual notes, but even knowing what the chords sound like. So when you're kind of making a song, you can feel your way through that kind of stuff. But the same applies to like audio and mixing. And having a lot of it is ear training. And so like kind of every so often while you're mixing audio, just like grab an EQ, a bell curve, and put it at like 8K, bring it up and like bring it up really loud and then bring it down really, really loud and sort of start to learn like, okay, when you think of 8 kilohertz, like when you hear a sound, if it's high in 8 kilohertz, you're going to recognize that because you know kind of where those frequencies live. And I think there's lots of resources on YouTube, professional mixers talking about this ear training and actually having tests. So I would suggest anybody go and look those up, and they will basically kind of run you through the gamut of like, hey, like I said, 200 hertz plus minus, listen to it, 400 hertz, 800 hertz, and that will really help you, especially because, when you're for voiceover, let's say, you're going to do, you're going to do a lot of different environments, probably different states of your voice, of somebody else's voice, different microphones, different hardware, who knows? And your voice is going to go through various impersonations in the digital form. And so, it's good to know where, when you hear, rather than hunting and pecking, it's good to kind of be able to figure out again, ear training, like, that's really, those sibilants, that sibilants at like 3-5K, that's gross. And you can kind of go in for that with any plugin or any hardware tool with confidence.
Yeah, and that's how I play. I like with the EQ, I like to do that. Like I'll just have like a fact-finding mission of like, what is my voice? What's the 8K mark sound like when I like dip the shit out of it, right?
Yeah, and then also at the same time, you have to know what you like. You got to know what you're shooting for. So you got to be very familiar. And when you ear train enough, just as with music, you can kind of almost hear in your head like what you need it to sound like, and you can approximate that difference from what it is now, and really speed up how quickly it takes you to take something from 0 to 100. It's, you can get good results in the beginning, but you got to keep trying at it, like the hunt and peck, right? Whereas when you're in the ear trained realm, you can just reach for knob. Like whenever you look at professional mixing engineers, Chris Lord-Alge is a good example. CLA, he just has a board. He mixes out of the box. He's one of the few big guys that still, well, I shouldn't say one of the few. There's lots of big guys that still do, but he's on a console, right? There's no graphs showing you stuff. It's an analog board. So, but he just knows, he reaches for the EQ knobs, and he kind of is like, oh yeah, this snare needs a little bit of that, a little bit of AK, that snap.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of this is, and a lot of people dismiss this, that, oh well, that's nothing, you're doing nothing. But when you develop your ear, it's like wine, where somebody like takes a sip and they're like, oh, okay, I can taste this, I can taste this, I can taste the barrel that it aged in, I can taste this. And someone else is like, I taste alcohol, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's after the amount of time of immersing yourself in audio, with the audio you want to work with. So if you're talking voices, you've immersed yourself in your voice on different mics. You've immersed yourself in other people's voices on different mics. Or if you're into music, you're talking about your guitar on different mics and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, you're going to start to pick those notes out, those little hints of those sounds that you're like, ugh. And a great way to put that is the podcast that I edit for Tyler, who does Minds of Madness. He has these mouth noises that I couldn't hear for the life of me. He's like, oh, you hear that? Oh, it's like my nose. It's a sound my nose makes. And I couldn't hear it. But as soon as I heard it, as soon as I finally narrowed it down, I'm like, I can't not hear that. And that's the exact way that a lot of frequencies come to people, where it's like, I couldn't hear that. Then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I can't not hear the 8K frequency, or that really nasty buzz at or the S sounds at 5K. It just, all of a sudden it's just going to come to you one day and you're going to be like, holy shit, how have I missed that? So we've spent a lot of time on that. Poseidon, I hope that works. I saw a thank you down here, so hopefully that helps for you. I like it. UK, I purchased a Rode NT1 5th Gen when I had it connected with USB 3 near my laptop or Bluetooth headset. You could hear noise interference. Have either of you heard of this? I returned it. Could have been the cable. But I do know on microphones, all it could take is they usually would come from the transformer that would be on the microphone. And
in
just
the
a
microphone.
bad ground, a bad something on the microphone. So yeah, return it. Whenever you have like mass production like that, you can get the odd one that has something like that. I've never had a problem with it myself, but I'm sure they pop out. SR375, good earphones for the love of God. Yeah, this is a lot of people kind of pointing this out. The bass, like I have headphones that I use for quote unquote mixing, or when I want to like be focused on the frequencies, and then I have earphones that I just put on, headphones that I just put on for listening. Right? They're two very different things. I got to get some nice open back.
Yeah,
I think that's my next one.
Well, and so this was the other thing I was going to say. When it comes to ear training, you need to get to a point, or you need to strive to get to a point. If you want to learn sounds really well, and you want to be able to, again, to notice the difference, because ideally, if you're trained enough, and you're at that pro tier, you should kind of be able to tell the difference between plus or minus 1 dB at a certain frequency. Like you should be able to hear that adjustment being made. Yeah. And so to get there, you need a treated room, and you got to have speakers. I mean, good headphones are a good midpoint, but if you're not going to spend the money on good headphones, then you need to treat your room, because you can't, like, in my room here, when I really want to do that fixed detailed work, I go on my Shure SRH 940s. And I listen on those, because those really kind of give me, especially in the top end, those give me really good idea of what's going on. But then the 1540s, which are somewhere, they're open back. So they're the 1440, sorry. And they are, more of an open back design. So you can hear even, there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no resonances within the headphones, so you can really get a clear sense of what's going on. So, but yeah, you got to have a really accurate, precise listening environment, because if that's not good, then yeah, you're not going to notice anything, and you're probably going to have a hard time figuring out what frequency, especially in the low end. Oh my God,
yeah,
in a room that's not treated and low end, and consequentially, treating a room for low end is harder than treating a room for high end.
Oh God, bass
you got to start getting into bass traps and like very big quadratic diffusers and Helmholtz resonators and all kinds of different tools.
I look forward to a day when this studio can start doing shit like that. That's what I'm looking forward to, because that's when you start getting into the large amounts of money being dropped on just.
Oh God, man! My ideal budget for a room would, like, for just a mixing room, would be at least like $5,000 to $10,000, $10,000 ideally.
Yeah.
Because then you can start getting into like ceiling panels and like the right flooring, raised flooring. Like you can really just get the room.
Yeah, this is also when I call them up and go, "Yeah, you want to trade for some airtime?" Yeah. Andrew says this week's 40K Hertz podcast about drum kits had a little bit of history on microphones and bass in the first 5 minutes, which is very interesting. Probably a topic for you. Yeah, I've been kind of dipping in. I've thought about doing, like, I was going to do a video on like history of microphones and stuff like that, because that's kind of what I do. And I've been kind of dabbling in a lot of that history and looking through a lot of that stuff. I find it fascinating. Don't know if it's going to be fascinating for the channel, but I'm going to put the video out regardless. But those videos also take a lot more time, because you can't fuck it up.
No.
When you're doing, like when I did the video on the history of Rode, I double, triple, quadruple checked every little thing that's in there, because you fuck something up, you lose credibility. And like, if I screw up a spec on a microphone, I fucked up a spec on a microphone. I had one, I don't even remember saying it. And this is fascinating, because you'll see sometimes when I have a video and I'll put like a little question mark, or like I'll say something and then I'll highlight it in the video, like, what? And I don't even know I'm saying it, because when you're reading off a teleprompter, sometimes shit just comes out. And what was the one? ADDA conversion. I said audio. did I say audio or yeah, I said audio to digital. And somebody's like, dude, it's analog to digital. And I'm like, I know, it's the screen in front. It's just what you do. That's what your brain does to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hardcore about that kind of stuff when I'm trying to do it. So I will be coming out with that at some point. Gear Junkie, how's it going? It was a fantastic week and I blew a lot of money.
Nice.
If you never learned an instrument or sang in a choir, take lessons. You don't have to be good, but participation is key for learning balance. I was a band herd and a choir nerd. Nice. Big Tasty car speakers. Okay, we got Big Tasty in the house. Love those analog boards. Yeah. Oh, Urshad. Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going, buddy? Hi, Dylan. The 40K Hertz episode talked about how engineer mixes with ears reshape the artist's intended music sound to what their ear wanted, so the ear can be limiting to creative expression. Ooh, that's spicy. That's a spicy. Did you get all that?
I think so.
So they talked about how engineer mixers with ears, quote unquote, shaped the artist's intended music sound to what their ear wanted, so that the quote unquote ear can be limiting to creative expression. Meaning, you're basically, when you mix by your ear, you're mixing to what you want only, maybe not what necessarily what the band or what everyone else wants.
Yep. Yeah. And so usually, really good mixers happen to have very good ears, because their mixes are enjoyed by very large groups of people instead of, sort of less in very small groups of people. So generally, yeah, there is a certain amount of chance to it. It's not saying necessarily that ear training is the only thing that you need to do to get to that. But that is what those guys did to be able to hone their craft and use their ears for things like that. So if you happen to be somebody that naturally has a very good ear, that's how you hone it, ear training.
Yeah, I just to put this out there, I would trust Dylan's ears over mine. So like if I was putting out an album and I'm like, I don't know about that, I would trust Dylan because of Dylan's ear base compared to mine. And it's not like I'm garbage, Dylan. So no, it's just
and I think it's not even, am I a good mixer because I like my mixes? No, that's not. Everybody likes their mixes, otherwise you wouldn't mix it.
I don't like my mixes.
I have decent ears because a decent, I have yet to have an interaction with somebody that actually says that I make a bad mix. I'll put it that way.
The Hurt mix was hilarious.
Other than shit that I did like over a decade ago, when I was starting in music, yeah, because this is garbage. Like there's stuff that I've mixed and I'm like, ooh, no, why does that sound so fat? No, that's disgusting. What is that?
It's like the Hurt mix when I was supposed to be mixing it, and you're just like, I just fucked around for a couple hours, and here's what I got, and I'm like, that is better than anything I will ever do.
And that was just me kind of like, if I gave it like a decent crack, but then in the back of my head going, this is not for use. This is just me messing around because mixing is fun. And then, and then I sent a Dio just like for the lulz, and you're like, oh,
I can't do any of this, you asshole. Yeah.
But yeah, like, am I going to necessarily mix the next Daft Punk album? Probably not. So, am I gonna be mixing a Grammy in the next year? Probably not on the radar, but you never know.
You never know. So the whole point of this is, what do you prefer, 4K, 1080? We'll get back to some of the engineering stuff in a second. But 4K versus 1080. Now, I want to ask you first, Dylan, if you have to consume, you're capable of consuming in 4K, right?
Yep. This is 4K monitor.
Do you prefer 4K? Like, is that your like go-to? Like, if you can, you're watching in 4K regardless.
I mean, if I'm on a system that supports it, do I think that every system I have needs to support 4K? No. But if I'm on, like, I got 4K for video editing and ended up spending a decent amount of money on it. But I do like it. I like the precision. I like the
but watching a talking head video like my videos, having it in 4K doesn't matter. That's like,
okay, this is how I'm going to say that. So if that was all that I was watching and I was doing nothing else, if I had a machine specifically for watching talking head videos, that's all I did on that machine. Would I buy a 4K display? No, I'd probably just buy a 1080p display.
All right.
And,
so
and
you're not that super absorbed passionate about it.
No, like, I mean, and I think the one exception to that I would make is, I don't know, if I got a projector, I'd want to get a 4K projector.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'd want to get a 4K projector.
I can't even imagine why 1080p projectors are still a thing. Like, I guess money,
because they're they're the economy class over the business class that is the 4K projectors. But because when you're dealing with size, it's kind of like camera. Like, have you ever tried taking one of your pictures from your Canon D7i and blowing it up to 24 by 36 inches?
Yeah, it's bad.
I have. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And so that's why they make medium format cameras still, right? Cameras that can shoot like 140 megapixels, or some ridiculous number, so that you can make those. And so it's kind of the same with video. Like, if I had a really large, like plus over 70 or 80 inches of a screen, I want it 4K. Yeah. Even lower than that, I would say, like 50 or more inches. And
oh, absolutely. Double deckers here. 4K devices seem to be restricted to low frame rates, which I have noticed. You have to spend the money. Like, I've got 165, I think 160. I can't remember. Mine's good. 24 frames per second. I'd rather have 50 FPS. If shooting historic moments for the archives, then 4K might be worthwhile, but 1080p is easier for day to day. I find there's still a large portion of society right now that actually can't even consume 4K. What's that?
Like, how do you mean?
Well, they don't have a 4K monitor.
Oh! I thought you meant like they would not notice the difference. I'm like, what? Why not?
No. Like, there's still people out there that are using 1080p. There's a lot of gamers that still use 1080p because of the FPS, right?
Hey, I on my corporate laptop has a 4K display on it, but I run it 1080p. Why? Because Pro Tools, their interface can only do 1080p. If you try to do it in 4K, everything is a fourth the size that it should be. It's like, oh my god, like, you need a magnifying glass to get to menus and shit.
It's like I try to play Civ 6 on my Mac, Mac, and everything's so small. I'm like leaning in. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, like, I don't know, some of the, and in some apps you can adjust it in the shortcut settings. You can, in a compatibility sense, you can, kind of do what is it, like half or twice as large or whatever. There's different settings for that. Display scaling, I think they call it. Yeah. But it's not the same. Some stuff still, or like if you have pop-up windows, the pop-up windows will still come up with the tiny shit. The window's the right size, but the writing in it is like an ant, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's great.
All right, so we'll get back to 4K versus 1080 in a bit. We're going to go through some of the comments here. I just wanted to make sure, like, I saw Double Decker's comment on that, so we'll swing around. We're way behind in comments, so I might be skipping a few. If I skip yours and you really wanted me to read it, and you really want us to address it, just hit it back up at Dark Corner Studios and then throw it out there. Urshad says, I heard one audio engineer say that when I do corrective EQ, I should not subtract the lowest problematic frequency because it is the fundamental frequency. Is this accurate?
It depends how obnoxious the low frequency is. Like, for example, if I'm on a ribbon mic and I'm right in there, I'm doing some like ASMR shit with a ribbon mic. I'm probably going to need to at least control the fundamental frequency, not remove it. And I'm not about removing frequencies. I think even the idea of, like, if you have, let's say, like a 60 cycle hum or like a power line hum in your audio, and you're doing a comb filter to cut out like 60, 120, 240, like all those frequencies, you're cutting out any information that also happens to be in that line. So especially if it's like on a bass guitar DI, great example. Oh my God, fucking phenomenal example. When you get somebody that sends you bass that was recorded with a shitty DI, and you've got to notch out that 60 hertz 120 hertz. I'm like, oh, great. Cause yeah, let's cut out basically most of the fucking instrument. Why don't we?
Yeah.
Like Jesus. And so, yeah, I will say that sometimes it's hard to uncouple, but yeah, I mean, the fundamental frequency, I would say at least in a lot of cases needs to be controlled. The only mic actually that I haven't had to control the fundamental at all is the ISO mic. That is the only one that the low frequency, and probably because the mic has some built-in management because it's kind of designed for boxiness. I think, some, and they're, of course, they're probably going to tell me it's the triangular end capsule on it, but
okay. Randy, what do you think Rode will do with Mackie? Randy, I actually know what Rode's going to do with Mackie. I don't know like specific like gear or any plans they have going forward with like what the roadmap is, but I mean from the mouth of the founder, Mackie's going to continue on. Mackie is just becoming part of the processes under Friedman Group, so Mackie will continue to exist. I believe that Mackie's going to be fulfilling like kind of not necessarily specifically, but they're going to be fulfilling the live audio angle from Rode that Rode hasn't really had up till now, right?
Yeah.
Rode has covered a lot of fucking real estate when it comes to podcasting, recording, studio recording. Like you look at their camera mics or the shotgun mics they have, the video mic series. They've got the wireless pro, the wireless. They cover so much, but the one thing they kind of lack is live, and I think that's going to be where Mackie's putting their foot in. Now, again, I don't have any like roadmap of what Mackie's doing or what's going to happen, but I got straight from the founder. He said, no, Mackie's continuing on. Like Mackie's part of the Friedman Group. Mackie's not part of Rode. Rode is also part of the Friedman Group. So yeah, it's an umbrella and you have them working, and yeah, Mackie's going to continue doing what Mackie does well. So I don't think anyone has to be worried about Mackie going anywhere. I also don't think anyone has to really worry about Mackie being influenced by Rode or vice versa, because live sound versus what Rode does is kind of a very different thing. I mean, the preamps, I'm going to say I prefer Rode's preamps over Mackie's. I prefer the Revolution preamps over the Onyx preamps.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I would say so. Like when I put them side by side, I prefer the Revolution a little bit more. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. Onyx is also one of those preamps that's been around for years. How do you just scrap that for Revolution preamps? Like, how do you take those and go, nah, we're not using those anymore? So I don't even think that's going to happen. Like, I don't even see those kind of crossovers happening. I think Mackie is just going to develop now with probably more resources at their disposal, right? Which is really cool to see. Like, imagine a company that was doing all the right things prior now has a ton more resources to do even more of the right things and to think bigger and to do bigger things. And I think that's literally what we can get from that purchase between the Friedman Group and Mackie. I don't think it's a matter of I don't think they were sucking up their competition. I don't think Rode saw Mackie as competition, even with the DLZ creator. And that's not to be mean to the DLZ creator, but when you see this anytime I do like the DLZ versus the Rodecaster Pro or the Rodecaster Duo versus the DLZ XS, Creator XS, you see that the Rode's UI, Rode's whole thing is just so much better fleshed out. And while the DLZ has that big screen and all that awesome stuff, man, when you look into the usability of the Rodecaster Pro series, it's just, you can tell they've been like heart and soul into this thing for years. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think anything's going to happen with Mackie. I think it's just going to be a continual, always happening. You'll probably relax on the 40K hertz microphone history, applied not depth. Good lesson on how to teach simple without depth. Yeah, that's a constant balance whenever you're doing videos or content around history, because you have to gloss over stuff unless you're doing like what's that long ass the history podcast that does like 7-hour podcast episodes, and so my
Oh,
buddy listens to it. My buddy Evan listens to it, and he's like, "Oh, you got to hear this." I'm like, "I don't have 7 hours to listen." Yeah, we'll make it up. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there on the comments. Scored an old Japanese 16-channel Yamaha console from the late 70s for $50. Damn, can't wait to hear if it's a Yamo Neve or just okay. Yama Neve, love it. I'm looking into some old consoles, old analog consoles, and they are in the thousands.
Oh man, no, like don't even go there. When I was console, I didn't pull the trigger on it. Don't mishear me. But I was looking into consoles like kind of entry level, like British, like small mid format consoles, like $36,000.
Yeah, in the thousands.
It's like, if you want a duality, you're going to be north of 200,000 to 400,000. Like you can spend as much as a house on good console.
Even the 4-track, the Tascam, like that famous 4-track from back in the day in the 80s and 90s, you can't get those for less than $4,000.
No, like
I don't like home studio shit.
Like when what's his face? When Dave Grohl bought the board from the Neve board from Sound City, I'm like, I don't even want to know. No. What that transaction was, because
he's got some extra money sitting around out of
and it wasn't like it was a piece of shit beat up. No, this thing was serviced regularly, and until more or less all the way up into, and then there was the lull, and then before it was sold. It was serviced one last time to be operational by Neve himself.
Damn, that's insane.
Yeah, so but
Rupert came over. Rupert came over for some drinks and he serviced it.
That's in the millions. I guarantee that's in the millions.
Gotta be. I like it. UK Rode NT1 Signature or NT1 5th Gen second attempt or something else, but only using XLR for speech and conference calls. The Rode NT1 Signature is basically the same as the 5th gen. It just doesn't have the USB connectivity. So if you're never going to use the USB connectivity, save yourself a fuck ton of money and buy the NT1 Signature with some of the links I have. Did that come out? It's you save a ton of money. You can get your whatever color you want, all that stuff. If you need at any point that USB connectivity on the USB 5th gen, get the USB 5th gen. But if you don't need it, like, there's no point to it. You can't do dual, so you can't do XLR USB. So if you're never going to use it, just buy the XLR. It's so much easier. Andrew C's challenging you. He says, I challenge Dylan to listen to the 40K Hertz episode and discuss next week. I think rather than bad ears, it might be music evolution can be a change to ears. I can't speak for Dylan. I got to say, Dylan is very busy, but he might try.
I think that's right. I think that's over time, what is good in any art form shifts, right? And what is considered current, and this is why even 2000s era music, you can hear it, whether it's based on sort of the general production decisions, what is considered good or trendy, as it were. It's not absolute.
No.
There are mixing engineers that existed in the late 60s, early 70s that would have no idea how to mix a modern pop song, but made millions of dollars back then making.
I hate the wall of sound. I hate the sound of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it's garbage and it's lazy.
And I think at that point it was because the technology didn't really exist to allow us to fully get a linear perspective on what it is that we're listening to and what it is that we're changing. Like, all of the tools were non-linear tools. And then suddenly we get into the digital world, and kind of linear audio processing digitally is now really easy. And so I think, but even with that, we're still learning new things. We're still learning new things about how to control and manipulate audio with tools that never could have existed in the analog realm. So what is good and what ears are considered the best ears constantly are changing again.
I'd agree with that. SR375, back to the resolution. I love 4K. I stream 4K at home with Plex. Stream from the internet. 1K is just fine. Yeah, and So I'll get to my ideas on resolution in a bit, but yeah, 4K when I can, 1080p for podcasts with 24 to 30 FPS. Oh, frames per second is a whole other battle. Fuck resolution. When you start talking FPS for talking head videos, like I even got into it with the guy when I was buying I was going in, I went and bought the card for this, which blew my mind that I had to spend $200 on an SD card for a camera. By the way, if you ever decide to go up to 4K on your camera, expect to spend at least $500 more than just the camera. Like, because you need an extra battery. Never buy a camera without an extra battery, and you need an SD card that can do it. And I didn't even buy the top of the line SD card that can do the highest codec on this camera. It's just unreal. But he was like, "Oh yeah, no, you don't shoot. It's 4K 60. You don't do 4K 30. You don't do 24 FPS. Nobody's doing 24 FPS. It looks like garbage. Everything in the future is going to be 60 minimum." And I'm like, "Whoo, those are some hot takes."
Yeah.
Damn. Like there's some people that will shank you over that. I'm just saying. Richard Mitchell, I don't think I've seen you on the stream before. How's it going, Richard? If you're far away enough, 4K is useless and 1080 is just as good. Your eye can only see so much resolution. Yeah, and it also depends on the size of the screen. Like I've got a 43-inch screen that is my main editing rig. It's 4K. I can tell when something's 1080. Oh dear God, it looks like garbage. But if I'm watching a YouTube video at 1080 in the middle of the screen, it looks perfectly fine. I can't tell that it's 1080. And I can't tell when I boost it up to 4K either. Restricted bandwidth as well. Yes, there are still a lot of people that are on restricted bandwidth. We are very, very lucky in Canada here. I've got fiber optic right to my desk. I've read all those yacht owners with low bandwidth, right? Poor yacht owners. My laptop's not powerful enough to even output 4K to a monitor with any reasonable frame rate. Ouch. Yeah, you know what? That's actually good to interesting to point out. Like, unless you have a Mac, it's not guaranteed that a laptop's going to be able to do that. Enko, I don't think I've seen you on stream. Welcome to the live stream. Whatever this is, hopefully you enjoy it. I care more about bitrate on YouTube. Sometimes I do 1440p for a bit better rate. I only have HD displays. I'd rather have a bit better bitrate or codecs than 4K. And this is something I'm seeing a lot from game streamers. This is why Twitch for the longest time banned 4K, because the bit rate's garbage. Most people can't output the bit rate to make 4K worth it for game streaming. Most people just can't put it's a lot of bit rate. Once again, this is a $200 SD card. Why is it $200? Because you need it to be fast and you need it to be big. Like you need a lot of it's that video takes up a lot of room. And it's the same thing when you stream it. 4K with proper bit rate is just ridiculous for most. And there's a reason I'm bringing all this up, by the way. But thank you for that, Anko. Very good point. I'm not running 4K as a desktop monitor. I have an ultra wide screen 40-inch. Ultra wide's got that nice compact, so you don't need 4K with those. That's fair. Anko also 4K Blu-ray and 4K Netflix is totally on another level from each other. 4K Netflix is not 4K. Oh, it's so bad. TV's discussions really meant you have to train your eyes, not ears. TV resolution is dependent on TV size versus seating distance. It's like being able to see the dots in newspaper print. Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think there's like anything over 4K, anything over 60 inches needs to be bigger than 4K. Anyways, size you capture 16K in a camera so you can cut in. Oh yeah. No, I'm just this does 7K, by the way. It's downsampled 7K to 4K, which I really like. That's going to be delightful. And yes, I'm going to be outputting in 1080p. Still, well, I'm actually doing a poll on my channel because do I continue to output in 1080? I don't know. We'll see. Love that warm feelings of Powerline hum. It does make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, especially if you touch it with your tongue. Big Tasty Ben, you guys talking about the size difference between 4K and 1080 reminds me when we first moved from 4:3 to 16:9, especially when trying to play some of my childhood favorite games. I remember it was I was growing up in the era of 4x3, and then movies started coming out with the black bars. So if you had a 4x3 TV, they would have an ultra wide version. Like if you rented a movie, you would have an ultra wide version and you would have the standard version. And we always had a standard TV. I didn't get an ultra wide TV until like late 2000s, sadly enough. So like we always watched it standard version. We'd miss out on all that. What is that? 20% on either side. So yeah, it's fascinating like how they're slowly integrating 4K, but I mean, we need to upgrade all of our high speed internet before we can really fully integrate that. So, Richard Mitchell, I'm curious. You talk a good bit about mics, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts about a sound devices Mix P3 2 for home studio that would go on the road from time to time? I don't have any experience with sound devices Mix P3 2. I know some people in the industry that swear by sound of the Mix Pre 3, but like it is the go-to. A lot of YouTubers use it as well, and one of the reasons they use it is because it's very mobile and versatile for that. So based on what everybody else thinks, it's expensive for a reason, because it's good. I can't put my name behind it until I actually get hands-on with one, though. So, and I'm planning on doing some upgrades in my studio, so we'll see. You capture video in high resolution cameras so you can crop and still have the resolution you need for IMAX. Yeah. Oh, how far behind am I? I'm still so far behind. There was a super chat that I didn't even see. Okay, let's hit this. Bangs Naughty Bits, $5 for Dylan's commissary account after Bill C-63 gets passed and bad content gets you life in prison. Pray for Dylan. Ouch.
Ouch.
I don't think Dylan has bad content. I like Dylan's content.
I don't make content, so I can't be. You can't nail me for bad content.
Are you and Bangs at odds?
I don't know. I guess. I guess. Apparently we are.
William Davis, I don't think I've seen you on the live stream. Mackie's one of our partners in Seattle. They have incredible live sound with DRM and SRM. I actually went to Seattle and I got a bit of a tour of this, the Mackie spaces. Absolutely incredible. I do have a conversation with them going about me possibly going back and doing some videos of like their test space. Looks so cool. I don't want to go back without a cameraman, because it's like when you're doing those kinds of tours, doing it vlog style is one thing. I would like to be able to interact with my surroundings rather than be pegged to a camera I'm holding and walking around with. But I would love to get back there. I've always been a fan of Mackie, and I've always been a fan of like being able to walk through those areas and see kind of how their development process goes. It was really cool. That's all I'm going to say now, because I'll save some for when the video actually happens. I hope Mackie is influenced by Rode. Time for a bit of a revolution. Mackie isn't going anywhere. They're approaching the pro market now, which we deployed them at 2024 MLK prayer breakfast. They sounded phenomenal. Nice. Camille's in the house. Hi. Rode's actually a great partner in mics and live streaming audio components. Yeah, I mean, Rode is pretty much touches gold every time they do something. Thank you for doing this live stream. I feel like it's my weekly nerd hangout. Yeah, you know what? It really is. This is some of the best time I get to hang out with Dylan too. Like we get a chance to like we cross over sometimes. I'll drop by his place.
I feel we've been doing that more lately. There were when I was not living in the same city as you were.
I'm gonna wreck something, by the way. 100%. Y'all are sleeping on the Rde NTR. Have you had a chance to play with that, dude?
Oh yeah. I sent recordings. We love that thing, man. I mean, I won't give too much away, but
no. The Rode, it's the ribbon mic by Rode. It's the NTR.
Can I show it? Can I grab it?
Yeah. Go grab it. So this microphone. It was basically I got the story from Peter Friedman himself. He's like, we released a ribbon mic, and I'm like, well, that's cool. And he's like, well, we released it knowing it wasn't going to sell. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. Why would you do that? And I still remember the line he gave me was to the effect of, well, any self-respecting mic company should have a ribbon mic. And it occurred to me, and this is going to be part of the video when we talk about it, is he's right. Now, when you look at a lot of microphone companies that are, when you do air quotes, when you say microphone companies, the one thing that really separates the high end, the good mic companies are the ones that have a full lineup. Like even SE has ribbon mics. SE has all the, then you look at the other companies that, again, air quotes, that are microphone companies, and you're like, well, where's the ribbon mic? Well, you don't have one. And he's right. Every self-respecting good microphone company has a ribbon mic. And that's why they developed it. They didn't develop it to sell it. And I can't imagine why they haven't sold more, because this thing sounds like beautiful. Dylan, hold it up again. Let's see. I'm going to put you on solo here just so people can see this. I'll get rid of Poseidon Hardcore History. Look at that ridiculous microphone. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous. This is going to be, by the way, playing a pivotal role in a few videos that we have coming out. Isn't that beautiful though? Like, just the cartridge,
and it's solidly built too. Like this,
yeah.
like especially it is an active ribbon, so it has an onboard preamp. But we'll get to all that in a video. But damn, this thing is and it sounds good. I mean, it sounds very warm. That's the word. Like I was showing it to some coworkers, and it's a warm feller, but ribbons are warmer. That's kind of their quality, right? That's what you want. You want that kind of almost old school, like you're in the AM studio kind of sound. You know, you talk about broadcast mics that sound broadcasty. Oh my God. That's like CBC in the 70s.
Yeah. All I know is that mic, I sang into it just for a split second to try it out. One, it has no need for excessive gain. That I can tell you.
No.
And two, it was like butter on my voice. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I mean, and we didn't we plugged it in the first time here, and I just threw it on a stick and plugged it into a good preamp, but a preamp, and you know, recorded Aiden screaming some stuff, and it was good. I mean, it was.
I love how you refer to it as screaming. I have a booming voice when I unlock the diaphragm.
Yeah.
I have a very, very boomy voice, and you can hear it in the way I talk. But when I do Meatloaf songs, and I do Meatloaf, I actually cover Meatloaf almost note for note.
Nice.
It's fucking loud, because as soon as I unlock the diaphragm and I sing from the diaphragm, it's just, I can't like whisper. I have to bring it down like this to whisper. And I don't have as much control when I don't have the diaphragm engaged. When the diaphragm is engaged, I have a ton of control on my voice. Not as much as I want. It's not as good as it has been in the past. But yeah. And Dylan always says I'm a yeller. So
no, I mean you just have a very domineering kind of, you're very loud.
I'm not a quiet guy.
Very loud, and I mean normally you are decently quiet, I would say. I mean you're not, but like when you unlock her and you start giving her
when you're doing something like Meatloaf, you know, the style, the dramatic style, you can't just do and I would do. No, you've got to literally put the chest into it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. As soon as you do that, it fucking like it blows people's ears. Gear Junkie, I just want to point this out. 30 or 24, shut the fuck up at any other frame rate. That is all. Beautiful. Thank you for
that. Well played.
Here's a question. A bad mix made by a newbie or just straight raw audio with no mixing?
Raw audio.
Bad mix. Raw audio? Oh
yeah. Yeah, you can, if you are really bad or
okay, you can fuck it up really bad.
Yeah, I mean, like assuming I think equipment these days, for the most part, is good enough to get a decently balanced version of the signal going in. Like, you know, like a raw mix out of a Rodecaster.
Yeah, it's actually pretty. It's not bad.
That would be fine. That would be
and also fine. Like raw mix out of a Rodecaster Pro, but also a raw mix out of a Rodecaster Pro with some of the inline, like it's not an aggressive EQ. It's not an aggressive. You can set up the compression aggressively.
You know what? That's an idea for a video. Record, like get a bunch of Y cables or get a bunch of input splitters, more specifically, and record the same song through two wildly different interfaces and don't process them with anything.
All right.
Just record them and then be like, which one has the best raw mix? Which one has the better raw mix? Because I'm not going to be perfect, because the way that sounds interact with each other is not something that an interface, a good interface, can compensate for. And so, I mean, you want to record things that have a chance to be at least decently balanced with each other. Like don't record a quartet of bass drums. But at the same time,
bass drum quartet doing all the hits.
At the same time,
this one is boom, boom, boom. That's.
I mean, honestly, or even I would say like, an African djembe drumming group. Djembes, man.
That would be cool, man.
They're friggin' like I used to be the program director at a music festival years ago for like 6 or 7 years, and we always had this group of like, how many people was it? I feel like it was at least 6 or 7 people, and they were like a big Montreal like drumming band. That's what they did. And yeah, oh my God. They didn't really need sound reinforcement. I'll put it that way. We got a bunch of people out in the middle of the wilderness slamming on djembes and dunduns and other huge drums. Like it's just acoustically. I mean, I would still try to mic it up, but yeah, I mean, we laugh about it, but stuff like that does happen.
Jimmy J. I love that name, Jimmy J. I don't know if you've been here, Jimmy J. If you have, welcome back. If you haven't, welcome to the stream. Says, in gearing up for baseball announcing season, I upgraded my take-along gear with the Rodecaster Duo. B&H has open box items with 20% off. I swear they get they sent a brand new item, cords wrapped like factory. You'd be surprised. So a lot of those, that's actually how I got this camera too. This was a quote unquote open box, but there's a difference between open box and open box. Are usually somebody bought it, brought it home, opened it, went, fuck this, brought it back, and they tape it back up and they sell it to you. But this was a show. This was on the shelf, mint condition. There's not a single scratch. There's not a single fingerprint on this. And I got it like 30% off. Wow. A ridiculous amount of money off. And a lot of companies like B&H will do that, is they'll refresh their enough people put their fingers on the product, right? They're like trying all that stuff. So they'll pull it, they'll sell it at a 20% discount, and they'll put a brand new one up. So the screen is just perfect, right? And all the cords are usually wrapped up still. So yeah, it's worth it. If you can find something like that, definitely go with the quote unquote used item or open box item. Bulk of Twitch streamers still output at 720 and have Twitch upscaled to 1080 on the back end. It's so weird, but that's because a lot of Twitch streamers have to output at 720 because there's a lot of 720 with a high frame rate will look better than 1080p with a low.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think with gaming, and again, this is one of those super. I mean, ideally you got both things, but it's controversial. But I would prioritize frame rate over resolution. Like almost every time. Like
bit rate is what I was thinking about. Bit rate, not frame rate. But yeah, same thing. Frame rate, bit rate over resolution every time. Steve's in the house. How's it going, Steve? I remember my first 720p camcorder, but I know where I could view it real full resolution. Thought I was future proof though. Remember when 720 was like, oh yeah, baby.
Oh yeah. Like Xbox, or the original Xbox, or like Xbox 360 or whatever, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah. Camille, looking for a good headset for editing explanatory videos. Bear Dynamic DT1990s overkill? Yes, it is. Do you also need an expensive amplifier for this? DT900 Pro X, DT990 Pro, better choice. The DT I use on a podcast that is massive. I use DT770 Pros, and I have no issue with it. So like if you're editing explanatory videos, and this isn't going to be me sounding super snobby or anything, but usually there's a lower you're not mixing music. You don't need to go with the really intense headphones. If you're just releasing voice or you're just mixing voice, you can get by with the DT770 Pros. You could probably mix music with the DT770 Pros. I haven't tried it, but I mean, Dylan uses the SRH 940s.
940s.
Yeah.
I like the 840As.
Yeah, the 840A, which
Those,
are similar price.
and again, that's like, it's hard to review headphones, because reviewing headphones is like reviewing speakers. Like,
Yeah.
you know how many mixing engineers I've come across that have completely opposite opinions with what monitors sound good. Like, you know, some guys rave over like Genelex, like something small, like an 8030C, or but small, but, you know, mighty in terms of precision. And other guys are still back in the old, like, I get a big set of tannoys. But then I listen to their mixes, and their mixes are actually awesome. So I'm like, okay, you know, clearly, you know, I can't mix worth a shit on those speakers that you have. But, you know, and at the same time, like, was my main pair here. My main pair is a first generation pair of Rockets. Pair of KRK 8-inch Rockets, and I get good mixes out of it. Like, you know, people buy $600,000 jingles from me with those speakers. And so, like, you know, it depends. Your ears, what headphones and what speakers sound good to you is totally dependent on your ears. Because as we've established earlier, when a conversation about mixing people's ears, there's a lot of differences. What sounds good is totally subjective.
Bangs, I just wanted to highlight this one from Bangs to Richard Mitchell. Spent my own money for a Mix Pre 6. It's my daily driver interface, neglecting its use as a recorder. I highly recommend, especially the new Mix Pre 2 revision spectacular. I don't know Bangs personally. I know Bangs has plenty of knowledge when it comes to audio. So if you want to take that I have no reason to doubt Bangs' approval of a device. And like I said, from what I've heard through the grapevine from a lot of professionals, that the Mix Pre's are the shit. So there you go. Yeah, we're way down here. SR375 says also an honest interview with Mackie, folks. Yeah, you know what? Mackie is a good bunch of people. I really like the people at Mackie. I didn't get a chance to really hang with them that much. I got a little bit in, but it was it was a busy day that I was down there. So do I need this for my voiceovers? Check out the Rde NTR. Just so love warm mics. It's so good. When you see the video, we're going to be doing a couple videos with this. I have something particularly special planned. Both Dylan and I are going to be doing a couple video series for something pretty special that you're going to be able to get to see this microphone really like held up to a candle. Not actually. That might ruin the mic, but you'll see. Meatloaf is better with barbecue sauce. Amen to that. 2 reasons I want the NTR. This is Beresford Productions, mainly for my voice, which is still not manly, but also for the name. NTR has certain connotations depending on what fandom you're in. NTR. I remember thinking about this. My brain's kind of up my ass right now, though. Yeah, you'll have to remind us. William, our team can do the video camera work for you next time you're at Mackie. Ooh, William. Well then, I have my own crew already. I think I might drag Dylan up for that, but yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, we can chat. Dylan, you can test your ribbon mic by, for example, connecting it to 48-volt phantom power. That's okay. It does actually have a preamp in it. Or blowing hard into the mic to test the plosives. Drop test is also, of course, possible.
Nope.
I would actually say since
nobody do any of that with a ribbon mic. Oh my god.
I would have to say I want to get one for myself. I've kind of gifted this. Like, I'm still going to be using the mic for reviews and all that stuff, but this one's kind of like I'm like, here, Dylan, you're going to make some beautiful music with this, and we're going to document that. So he's getting to hold on to that mic full time as it is. And I don't think Dylan's going to let me do a plosive test into that microphone. So,
I mean, it's got insane proximity, so you're going to be doing a plosive test even when you don't want to be.
No kidding.
No. But yeah, again, they have their purpose. Like, I just used, for a song that will come out at some point. I just used the ribbon to record 12 string. And it once, processed and equalized to some degree, even again, bringing up the higher end, obviously, at least a touch. It really softens up the swing, gives you more of like a super tramp, 12 string kind of sound to it.
It's soft. It's nice, but it's
stuff up. Even what it doesn't reduce my sibilance, because I have a sibilance problem like most people. And so, you know, it doesn't reduce the volume of the sibilants per se, especially when you again balance the table again and process the VO the way that you should be anyway. You know, yes, it does dullen it down a little bit, if that's maybe not the best word, but it takes some of the shrillness out of it in a non-linear way, in a way that takes some of that initial bite, especially for like T's and D's.
Yeah.
That initial just that zap, right? It manages that really well. And I don't know, I've always, not in this era, but I don't know, the sound of a ribbon mic to me has always been reminiscent of, again, eras of audio long past, which, you know, obviously people today would think sound like shit, but, you know, things that were, again, warm 70s AM
Yeah,
radio.
we're so used to like almost like clinically sharp sounds from digital and from like condenser mics, and it's nice to feel that warmth of something that has just an analog feel to it.
Yeah, well, something that has non-linearities to it, because that's like when you look at how an old EQ, like a Pultec job, processes like, okay, it's a high and low shelf compressor, bass, or sorry, it's a high and low shelf EQ. Great, whoop-de-fuck. But like, then you start playing with the high and the low shelf, the boosts and the attenuations, and you're going, oh, that's some of the high end's going away, but like it's kind of jagged in it, but in a way that's musical, in a way that actually sounds good. And it's an artistic quality to it that is, again, it's not just a regular, right, plus or minus low shelf, like on a graphic EQ or a parametric EQ. It has some, I don't know, it's a special secret sauce that is the chaos of the universe, you know?
Yeah. Ooh, by the way, we caught up with the conversation here, and we're almost done. So this is actually perfect. K&H is a great source for cameras and lenses. If I was in the US, yes, I've been there once, and I need to go back. Andrew C has a question. Now, this is something I've got to get a lot better at, is my website updating. I do have a website. It's darkcornerstudios.tech. If the NTR is that good, shall you release a high bit rate sample somewhere to link to? Yes. I also haven't been doing a ton of like mic reviews, which I do have some in the coffers, some that are in different stages of production. I've got the ribbon mics from SE, and I know SE sent me those like 6 months ago. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
I'm sorry, Tony. Tony's gonna be like, "What the hell are you doing?" We've got I've got some stuff with the what is it? The Lawton audio mics. I've got some tests, and I need to get better at uploading some audio to the website so you can hear the actual uncompressed audio on the website. The problem is websites really only like you to upload MP3. So getting out wave. So maybe on the Discord, I'll be able to upload some wave files. That might be the best way to do it. Just on Discord, I'll set up a channel where I can put up the audio files. And yeah, Beresford NTR is a group of genres of Japanese adult manga anime involving one person cheating on another.
Nice.
I'm curious. Not completely. Ribbon mics equal Bing Crosby, big bands, Frank Sinatra, and others. Yeah, you know, ribbon mics were the old before condensers really took over. Ribbon mics were the go-to for clearest of sound. The problem with ribbon mics is they have roll-offs on the high end and the low end, and what ends up happening is when over old radio tape where you're recording to tape or whatever also had roll-offs, and then you put it over the air and those also had roll-offs, so you ended up like getting this piece of music that had very little information left by the time it got to your ears. That's why when condensers came out, they were so coveted, because they were crystal clear and had all the information, and so when the other roll-offs happened, you still had some information left. I'm really kind of summing that up in a very quick way, but there are some I covered that when I did the other ribbon mic. What was that? The ribbon mic you lent me way back 2 years ago?
Oh yeah. That was
Yeah.
that was such trash. Oh my god.
Now that we've moved on to better ribbon mics, you're like, oh
Well,
god.
no, but I mean, like, I don't know. That's ART. I've always been skeptical of ART. They're like a good many years ago. They were the first company I started investing, like dropping money into. Like I think I was still in high school. And I started buying ART stuff,
Yeah.
and Jesus, and it was like everything that they made broke at some point. Stopped working. I was like, am I unlucky? Or I shouldn't say stopped working, but just something would happen, like the tube would blow, and I'm like, well, what the fuck? I'm like, why there's no sound? And then I open it up, and the tube is literally cracked, and I'm like, well, I plugged this in twice. What is wrong with you?
And there's people that swear by ART too.
Yeah, well, and it's like maybe they're just luckier than I am, but like I still have a few ART products employed, but like that AR, like the noise floor on that internal activator drove me nuts.
It was brutal.
Drove me nuts. Like you wanted to try. Like I remember once at the time, this was again a long time ago. I was doing like a some Christmas song, and I wanted to get like a mid-side stereo image of a guitar for the first time, and the only figure 8 mic that I had that wasn't rigged up something was that ribbon. I had a tube mic at the time, but it was so ingrained in another setup that it was pretty much immovable within a reasonable amount of time. So I used the ribbon and cranked it because acoustic guitars are notoriously quiet sources.
Yeah.
And holy shit, the ocean! I could hear the ocean. I could hear the ocean, my friends. Oh, holy shit!
Yeah.
And I mean. There's a certain amount of noise that spectral denoise and RX can help you out with just fine. and then there's a certain amount of noise that even AI noise removers can't do anything with. And you're like, okay, you know what? Let's just put this. But it almost had an analog-y kind of sound after you ran it through a little bit of noise suppression. So I kept it just because, again, it sounded like something just off an old, an old reel-to-reel tape machine.
Do you still have it?
What?
The ART ribbon.
Yeah.
You should like put it side by side with the Rode.
They kind of they borrowed the look of Royer.
Yeah.
And it pisses me off.
Just borrowed it. I still got to get my hands on some Royers. Yeah.
Well, and this depends. Do you want to be a ribbon mic channel? Because like you can totally get even Cloud, man. Like remember Cloud, the manufacturer of the Cloud Lifter, they are a ribbon mic company, and they make ribbon mics with cloud lifters built in because the Cloud Lifter originally was designed for ribbon mics that have an extremely low output. The nice thing about this NTR is it has a built-in mic activator, as it were, and it's
a relatively quiet one too.
Yes, I was quite impressed with. We recorded it in not a perfectly quiet room, but a relatively quiet room, and I couldn't hear any electronic noise. It was room noise.
Well, it helped that you didn't have to add much gain to it.
No, the fact that I've got my 1073 and it was at 30
or something.
Yeah, I was at 30. Still is at 30 because I just had that plugged in. But it's well made. The mic, the internal preamp is good. It doesn't seem to color the ribbon very much, or if it does, it's coloring it actually in a way that's almost got a sweetness to it. It's not just warm, but it's sweet.
Yeah.
Right.
If you want to see a cool video, go check out. They've got some videos on the Rode channel about how they did the ribbon for that mic and they've got a ton of stuff. A lot of the stuff there, the sales stuff they used when they released the mic. They've got some music up there. It sounds fucking fantastic. That's like going to be one of those mics that you put on in a glass case and you only take it out for when you really need it. It's a pretty mic. Anyways, we got to get going. Ken McCone did not say hi. How's it going, buddy?
G'day.
William, have to agree with you all. The need for analog sound versus digital dry. Yes. And Wilf, I haven't seen you in a while. Wilf, how's it going, buddy? I love the sound of that ART M4.
Oh yeah. That was the first AR. It was like $500.
Yeah.
Back when I bought it, and this was way before I had a job. So that was like a ludicrous amount of money. And so that kind of was my, at least for vocals, because the problem with that M4 was it weighed a ridiculous amount. And I just at the time assumed that, ribbon mic or that tube condenser mics had to weigh a ton. And then, in college, I held a U67 and I was like,
son of a bitch. They don't need to use lead.
I said, oh, well, it was like, it wasn't even lead. It was like ceramic. The outside of the mic, which was kind of cool. It had this, this pipe bomb look about it. But like, they, it was you had to put counterweights on a stand to hold it. And of course there are professional mics, it has nothing to do with the quality of the mic. It was just the style of it was very heavy. And when you're kind of on a budget and can't afford giant, interlocking toothed yokes on stands, that it's a bit of an annoyance. So it tends to just, in my case, it lived on just an upright stand in a vocal booth. And that was kind of its primary point until I got my U87. And then that kind of took over.
Yeah. All right. We're going to end the stream with Jimmy J. I doubted your statement on the NTH 100 being a headset you can wear all day. I've never worn a headset I can wear more than a couple hours, but you were right. Not bad for a Canadian.
Nice.
Thanks, everybody, guys. Have yourself a great day. We'll see you next Friday with the next live stream. Have a great weekend, guys.
Yeah.